I have not driven a BYD car ever which has got driving control like this. Seriously impressive stuff. One of the most innovative EV companies in the world, selling hundreds of thousands of EVs per month. Of course, fans of the brand will know we're here with BYD today, and we're here to test this, the rather unfortunately named Seal. So can BYD switch from an engineering company to creating desirable and affordable sporty sedans? Well, there's only one way to find out. I'm going to put on my official BYD engineering hat and I'm going to take this car for a review. Welcome to Shenzhen and welcome to the Fully Charged Show.
Like the Fully Charged Show? Then you will love our 6 live shows being held around the world in 2023, starting with Sydney, Australia on March the 11th and 12th.
Now, I know a lot of fans of the Fully Charged Show and EV fans in general are really excited about BYD coming to their country. And the good news is they've been expanding massively over the past few months and they will be continuing that over the next year or so. They're going global in a big way. But the thing is, I don't think BYD is perceived as a cool brand. I still think they have a little bit of a brand issue, but I think with this car, that's all about to change. So here we go. So we have selected sports mode for today's drive because why not? We're in a performance sedan. We may as well do that. And that just tightens everything up, makes everything a lot more responsive. Throttle response, very, very quick. Let's just leave it at that without doing anything illegal on the road. In a car like this, you need that added oomph because it's not light. So the all-wheel drive version, that's the more expensive one, not the one we're driving today, that weighs 2,150 kg. This one, the rear-wheel drive version with only one motor, weighs 1,850 kg. This car also has ridiculous 0 to 60 times as well. So for the all-wheel drive model, the dual motor one, not the one we're in today, 3.8 seconds to 60. That's very rapid. This one is the single rear motor one, so that does 0 to 60 in I think about 5.9 seconds, which is plenty fast enough. The chassis is really tight. As much as I can tell from the chassis on like these motorway roads, it's really tight. It's very nimble, very quick and responsive. You know, the roof line is very low, so much so that every time I get in and out, I bang my head on here. Now we're driving on these mountain roads here and there's these speed bumps, so you do feel the speed humps a little bit. That's probably because of the low profile tyres. Brakes are fantastic. They're perforated. They perform much, much better than standard brakes on a standard car. This car has got performance written all over it, even for the more standard versions. And that's what I really like. BYD are taking their cars into a new direction, not only improving efficiency, but dynamism. BYD never really thought about driving dynamism before, but here they are with this car, a really sporty saloon, and doing a great job about it. Now, of course, BYD is primarily an engineering company when design's kind of an afterthought, but not with this one, not with this one at all. There's some beautiful design touches, but it's all to increase things like efficiency. So for example, these diffusers, not just for looks, that's functional to help create the most slippery car they can, therefore making it more efficient in terms of range. The back end is a little bit blobby. I'm not such a fan of that, nor am I such a fan of these kind of teardrops here. That ocean theme is a little bit OTT for my liking, but they've toned it down a lot here, so it's not too overbearing. Now, I think the overall design of this is so simplistic. They've really been able to tone it down while still thinking about that efficiency. It's got these lovely kind of grille bits down here, again, to help with the flow of the air going past the car, and they look cool, and it means it rides quite low as well. That's quite a low car. But it's also quite low because the CTB architecture. So they've been able to make the entire car around about 10%, 10% lower. And the goats and other animals have decided to join me. They like the seal as well. Hello. You come to see the seal? We'll carry on. Anyway, this car also comes in 7 different colours, 5 different interior colours. It comes with a all-wheel drive version or a rear-wheel drive version. The one we've got here today is the long-range rear-wheel drive version. And the cars come in a price from about 210,000 RMB up to about 290,000 RMB. Now the best part of this car is the front end. It looks sleek, doesn't look like any other BYDs out there, very different from the Dolphin. And I think they've done such a good job with the design of this. They've toned it down to 9 instead of pumping up to 11 like with the Dolphin. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thankfully, I think BYD have been listening, because this interior is so much more toned down than, say, the Atto 3, which had the silly guitar strings in the doors and lots of other strange vents and things on the dash. They've dialed this down but upped the quality of materials. They've got this lovely kind of Alcantara material on the dash. There is a bit of cheap plastic around here, but it's designed quite nicely and it's quite toned down. Of course, they have the wonderful screens. I've got my heads-up display as well. I've got some just practical things in here. I've got space for 2 phones to charge down here. Now they do talk about the ocean theme in here, about how part of the steering wheel is like the fin of a, I don't know, an ocean animal. Apparently this dashboard screen is meant to be the heart of the ocean, but I thought the ocean was full of plastic rubbish. Anyway, they're overdoing it with the ocean theme, but anyway, it's a nice interior. Now the seats for me, I think they're okay. The quality is much better than the Dolphin, for example, but they don't really grip you very well. Now they've got these big bolsters. Perhaps I'm a bit slimmer than I should be, but they don't actually grip you very well. So that's one kind of downside. Everything in here is quite low and quite squat, which would make the cabin feel very small, but I've got this massive screen up here. Again, it blocks all the UV light, so my head doesn't burn. And luckily I've got my BYD engineer's hat on today. The other thing I want to point out in here, apart from all the drive modes in here, which are tactile buttons, fantastic, well done, is I have my microphone. So if you'd like to hear me sing, then maybe stick around and I'll sing a little ballad later. And that's got its own built-in socket down there. Very useful for BYD Seal owners who need a little sing-along. So I actually think the biggest upgrade in here has been for the rear passengers, because no BYD I've been in has been quite as nice as this. I think they've really upped what the back feels like for the people who's going to sit here. So again, I've spotted by this massive glass roof, which helps with the feeling of space. The material quality, much better than the Dolphin, and I think even an upgrade from the Atto 3. I've got a few other little bits in here. So for example, I've got my DIN audio sound system, that's 775 watts. I wouldn't actually mind spending a few hours in here. Of course, I would rather spend it in the driving seat, because that's the most fun in this car. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a BYD without a healthy dose of practicality. And it comes with 320 litres of boot space. Now, it's not actually that big. It's quite deep, but it's not very tall. It does have a handy compartment down here though. Now, BYD are upgrading everything on this car, especially compared to the Dolphin, which we reviewed in this same spot almost a year ago. So it has electronically operated boot instead of hand operated. So everything's been given an upgrade. The other thing that they're upgrading is the warranty. Now this warranty is for 6 years or 150,000 kilometers. So BYD are very confident about the durability of the Seal. So whilst I have my official BYD engineering cap on, I want to tell you about the shell of this car. Now it's not something we often do, so come a bit closer and I'll tell you why. So this has something called CTB, which is cell to body, which basically means the top of the battery forms the underside of the shell here on the floor. Of course, it's the Blade battery, BYD tech, why wouldn't it be? But why is that important? Why go to all that effort to make CTB architecture for a car? Well, it decreases the weight by 10%. Immediately, that makes the car more efficient. It also increases the strength of the entire shell by 50%. And it also means the side is better protected in a collision by 45%. All of this technology, all of this time that BYD spends on these little engineering details just make cars better and better and better. And the Seal is such a good example of that. So we're here at the front of the car, and this is where I can tell you about the frunk. The frunk has 53 litres of space. So in total, you get around 370 litres of storage space. The other thing you'll notice is just how low this front end is. That's all to help with the drag coefficient. This is a very slippery car. It's got a 0.219 CD drag coefficient, which is very, very low for a car like this. So perhaps the one complaint I would have in here is visibility. So although it is quite a squat saloon, with everything squashed down, my A and B pillars are quite large, which really does begin to restrict my visibility, especially if I'm trying to look behind me as I'm parking or reversing or looking at the traffic. It's a very small aspect of the car which perhaps I don't like. And I've got a HUD, heads-up display, in front of me where I can see exactly the speed I'm doing, telling me I've got lane assist, and telling me where I'm going in terms of navigation. But most importantly, what BYD have done is invested their money in the right areas. Things like efficiency, structural rigidity, the batteries, the motors, making them more efficient and keeping it at a very low price point. And that's what is important for consumers. It's not always about the latest in self-driving technology. And I think what BYD are doing every year is getting better and better and better. And to produce a car like this is astounding, even compared to just a couple of years ago when we were driving the Han and even the Dolphin last year. This is a fundamental, huge step forwards for BYD. And I really hope they can continue on that path of more efficiency, more optimization. Even if BYD are perceived as not a cool brand in the traditional sense, they have nailed it with engineering and coolness from that. I think any company which focuses that much detail on making everything better, but without all the fancy technology and going overboard, is a winner in my book. And the Seal is such a compelling case for absolutely dominating the EV marketplace. If they get the pricing right, this is a fantastically driving performance saloon which looks good and drives really well. I want to see more of this from BYD. Yes, please. So that's all we've got time for. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the BYD Seal from Shenzhen. We have all of our YouTube memberships around this video. And if you have been, thank you for watching.